Good afternoon. Next video. I've been trying to make this all afternoon and the sun keeps going in and out and it's been a real nightmare. So if I go in and out of focus, don't worry about it. I'm still here. I thought after last week's video where we talked about the history of horticultural therapy and we talked about the history of high ground and how we get referrals at Stamford Hall, I thought today would be a good time to do a little bit more of a practical exercise, a bit of a demonstration so you can kind of get the idea of what it's all about. Something obviously we all work with is our hands. You lose the use of your hands or you get restricted use of your hands and suddenly the world becomes a very different place. I know from years of tree surgery that my hands aren't exactly in the best of places anymore. So what can we do with horticultural therapy to help our hands? One thing we can do quite easily is to sow a few seeds. We can use seed sowing for very fine, very close motor skills or for quite big gross motor skills. So whether you've got an individual sort of injury with your finger or a problem with the muscle or nerves, tendons in your hands, this is something that we can all do. Generally what we do when we do seed sowing is we'll kind of start with really big seeds, particularly if we're working with fine motor skills, and then we'll work our way down to really little seeds. So to this end we've got some lovely pumpkin seeds, blue pumpkin seeds that I saved from Halloween last year. So we're going to sow them first, and we can explore how we use our hands in doing so. Another great thing about seed sowing is that we have to follow a set of instructions. So if we have somebody with any cognitive issues, particularly some of the neuro patients who need to learn repetition and need to understand how to do things in order, this is a great skill for them. So I'm sure most of you watching have probably all sown seeds before and never really given any thought to the fact that it's going to help these. It's going to help your hands. So get ourselves a nice pot, 5-inch pot. We've got over here a lovely bag of compost courtesy of Vitax. Vitax have been very, very kind in donating us a whole lot of compost that we can use this year for growing stuff. And simply we're just going to fill the pot with compost. All the time we're using our hands, we're exercising our hands in different ways. So be it pushing, using our fists, we're using our hands. So it's all good exercise. We're going to fill the pot just below the rim. And there we go, 1 pot of compost. So we can now exercise our fine motor skills, and we can take ourselves out some of the pumpkin seeds. Pumpkins, like most cucurbitates, like being sown on their edge, otherwise they do have a habit of rotting. So we're going to very carefully set them out in the pot, spacing them out as best we can, and drop one on the floor. We'll probably get 5 seeds to this pot, which is plenty. Now we got them spaced out, we're just going to push them in just so they're below the compost, on edge, just like that. Finish them off. Make sure that we then fill back on top. Make sure we've got no air pockets around the seeds, because otherwise they'll sit and rot. And there we go. So how has that helped us? It's obviously helped us with gross motor skills. We've been handling, we've been moving compost, we've used our fine motor skills with the seeds, and we've followed the set of instructions. So that's kind of how it works. To make things a little bit more complicated, we're lucky. Nature provides us with all sorts of different size seeds. So we've had the giant blue pumpkin seeds. We're now going to move down to an old high ground favourite, which is chamomile seeds. So you can start with a little tray, packet of chamomile seeds, and again, same as before, some of our lovely Vitax compost, put it in the tray. So again, the instructions we learnt from the first one, same thing again. I know this is all quite simplistic for most people who know how to garden, but it's understanding how using our hands is the key action in what we're doing here. Also, standing at a potting bench, you're standing. By virtue of that fact, you're working on your standing tolerance. So if we've got a patient that has a problem with a leg or a back or anything to do with standing, it's a great activity, because while you're doing the activity, you're building up the tolerance, but you're not thinking of the issue that you have with your back or your leg. So same as before, compost in the tray. Now these are going to be quite hard to see because of the sunlight, so we will do our best, because chamomile seed is incredibly fine. And I did try doing this outside earlier on with some basil seed, and it managed to blow all over the garden, so that didn't work. So we're going to tip the chamomile seed into our hand. Now, I don't think you can really see that on the camera, but the chamomile seed is absolutely tiny. It's the size of a pinprick on the end of my finger. So obviously, to try and sow these individually is a great fine motor skill, but it's nigh on impossible. So we're going to use our pinch grip, and we're just going to take a little pinch, and we're going to just gently scatter it on the surface of the compost, keeping it spread out as much as we possibly can. And again, we're following a set of instructions, but we're also learning how to space the seeds as best we can. We're trying to not have great big clumps of them. We're trying to just spread them evenly across the surface of the compost. Working with the military, we do find that quite often the guys we work with love sowing things in straight lines. Everything is in ranks. In nature, there are no straight lines. We don't do things in straight lines in nature. We did have a patient last year who sowed a tray like this with carrots, and they were in the most beautifully straight ranks. I don't know who it was, but it made us smile. So we got our chamomile seeds sown. Because they're very fine seeds, they don't need much of a covering of compost. We're just going to give them just a delicate little covering of compost, and that is all we need to do. Firm it down. We'll put a label on that in a bit, and there we go. We have a pot of nice tray of chamomile and a pot of basil ready to go. Moving past seed sowing, obviously once we've sown the seeds, we end up with pots where we have all sorts of lovely new growth coming on the seeds. What we need to do is prick them out. Again, it follows in with the hands, so I'm just going to do a little bit of this today as well. And we're going to prick out some tomatoes. These are a variety of tomato called Rainbow Mix, which we sowed on the 5th of March. These were sowed by patients at Headley Court. They're now at home in my greenhouse, and we're going to very simply prick them out of here into these 3-inch pots. So 3-inch pot, another dose of our wonderful compost from Vitax. Firm that in nicely. And again, we're still working with our hands. We're still working on the same premise of fine skills, gross skills, and we're still standing. And we're throwing things around the greenhouse for good measure. So what we do is, these are a little bit far advanced, because generally you're looking to find a seedling where you can hold by the cotyledon, which is commonly called the seed leaf. Nature very conveniently provides us with leaves that we can hold on to without damaging the true leaves. So if you look, the cotyledon leaves all look fairly similar, no matter what plant we're talking about. So it's tomato, these are asters. You can see they're quite similar. All we're going to do, so pinch grip again and pinch grip again. We're just going to gently ease out our tomato plant, getting as much root as we possibly can, and there we have an absolutely lovely little young tomato plant ready to go in the pot. So again, it's a very simple set of instructions. Fill the pot with compost, firm it down, lift the seedling out of the nursery pot, and we're going to make a hole just big enough to slide in our tomato plant. Tomatoes are great because you can actually plant them much deeper than they were in the compost. Lots of plants you plant the same soil level. Tomatoes, the deeper you plant them, the more roots they will form and the better plants you will get. So again, a very brief introduction into how we use our hands. And if you think of it, every single thing in this greenhouse here with me is going to involve us using our hands in one fashion or another, and it's going to involve us standing. So there we go. And I will be back making another video Thursday this week. As I've always said before, if there's anything you particularly are interested in learning or would like to ask, please do interact with me on this. I do feel a bit foolish stood in my greenhouse talking to myself, but I hope you got kind of the gist of the idea, and I will be joining you again on Thursday. Thanks for watching. Ta-da.